Here's another one, carbon dating. And
yes.
This one taps into a lot of what we were talking about, dogmatism, science as a tool. You can push your own button.
Carbon dating. Go ahead.
Anyway, I used to know more than I know now about it. And it was one of the things that really, man, I bet you know more than I do. It was one of the things that when I looked at it, I was like, what the?
Yeah. Carbon-14. Are you kidding me? Carbon-14 is a joke. I'm not a scientist. You actually said it too. I used to know a lot more than I do now. I think one of the biggest things about when I talked about the scientific method kind of getting cast aside because of the politics and because people trying to save their jobs and things, and people treating evolution like it's fact. I think a huge problem I have with people doing that is because they just completely ignore all of the crazy factors that come into like how much you have to trust carbon dating. Almost everything, every old thing is dated with carbon dating. Yeah. Or with rock layers. And rock layers,
that's what I meant by carbon dating, is the layers in the earth.
Well, carbon dating is actually a process. There's a machine. You put whatever, you take a sample, you put that sample into a machine. And what it does is there's this machine detects the carbon and it detects the decay, the radioactive decay of this object. And I could tell you a lot more of it when I was younger. But then with this machine, they can detect roughly how long it must have taken to decay this much radioactively. Yeah. The problem with that is radiation changes constantly. Because the sun is changing constantly, the atmosphere is changing constantly, weather, all of that stuff. And people treat it like it's like this really strict thing. Like it's always been the way it is now radiation wise. A little bit of radiation can completely warp something that's really maybe you bury this piece of like tooth or something in the ground and you just expose a bunch of radiation to it, and that machine will tell you that thing is 70 million years old.
What I was going to say is somebody solved for X, however they did that, and plugged that in the machine. X is this many millions. Yes. And now every layer is this many millions. And it's just the science now, and all of our beliefs are stacked up on these layers that were made or whatever, however long ago. Mm-hmm. If that X was solved, or more like, okay, I'm being a bit cynical, but realistically here, think about this for just a moment as an idea. This is how I think things are. If this radiation or whatever variables that we were not able to more accurately solve for so long ago in the future becomes, like our evidence with our better knowledge now shows that the Earth is not nearly as old as we thought. If that discovery was made by somebody, you know what would happen? What do you think would happen?
I think it gets shut down. And
why?
That person would lose their credentials.
Okay, I was going to try to be patronizing, but that's exactly what would happen. Because you're not allowed to believe that. That's why. It's simple as that. You're not allowed to believe that. Mm-hmm. You're not even allowed to find that. And that's when it gets really frustrating. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to discover or learn things that go against the religion of evolution, if that makes sense. It's that dogmatism you're talking about.
Yes, our predispositions are leaking out a little bit. I don't want to just emanate frustration at that, but that is being honest. We're pretty frustrated that evolution it's kind of being treated like it's fact, at least in the scientific realm. Again, I'm not a scientist. I also want to make sure that people know I probably butchered the description of carbon dating. It's more complicated than that, and it's improved a lot lately, especially the last 10 years. The methods they use have improved a lot. The problem is you can't track objects that are that old for that long. Like especially if they put in a substance in the ground for testing purposes 10 years ago, and then they pulled it out and they dated it, it'd probably be exactly to the moment it got buried. It's so accurate in that respect. The problem is that the Earth emanates radiation from the core. The temp, I talked about all these variables that can change. Things can get buried and reburied, and floods can happen, and storms and hurricanes, and the world is a little bit like this crazy ball of nonsense that's constantly changing. And yeah, I've already basically said this, but that there's almost every indication other than the physical evidence of like the world around you, where you can see degradation of rivers, decomposition of different items and things like that. And you can date based on how that kind of goes. There's not a lot that goes beyond 10,000 years that's not using carbon dating.